The conference room aboard the Earth diplomatic station hummed with the sounds of translation devices. Ambassador Chen sat at the long table, surrounded by representatives from 6 alien species. 15 years had passed since humanity first met the Galactic Concordat, and those years had changed everything. Chen looked at the holographic display showing star charts and fleet movements. The Concordat had welcomed humanity with open arms, or whatever appendages each species possessed. The tall, elegant Volthari had spoken of unity and cooperation. The insectoid krill had shared trade routes. The aquatic delphini had opened their ocean worlds to human scientists. In return, humanity had given much. Too much, some people whispered back on Earth. Human military tactics had revolutionized how the Concordat fought. Human artificial intelligence helped coordinate supply chains across dozens of worlds. Human diplomats, with their strange ability to form emotional bonds with almost any species, had prevented 3 wars before they started. The Krethek swarms are moving again, announced Velmora, the Volthari High Chancellor. Her translator converted her musical language into flat English words. They threaten the Aurelia system. Admiral Kozlov leaned forward in his seat. He was a broad-shouldered man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had commanded humanity's 3rd expeditionary fleet for 5 years. How many ships are we talking about? Our intelligence suggests a moderate force, Velmora replied. Perhaps 300 vessels. The Aurelia system is critical. It supplies 7 colony worlds. If it falls, millions will starve. Chen studied the Volthari Chancellor carefully. Velmora had always been friendly to humanity. She had personally sponsored Earth's membership in the Concordat. But something felt different today. The Chancellor's skin, normally a soft blue, seemed darker. Stress, perhaps. What does the Concordat need from Earth? Chen asked. Your fleet, Velmora said simply. Human ships are fast and your crews are fearless. We need you to help defend Aurelia while we position our main battle groups. Kozlov pulled up tactical data on his personal display. You're asking for a significant commitment. How many ships will the Concordat provide? We will have 200 ships in position, Velmora assured him. Combined with your fleet, we will outnumber the Krethaks. It will be a defensive operation. Simple and clean. Chen and Kozlov exchanged glances. Humanity had 143 warships in the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet. It represented 70% of Earth's total military strength. The other 30% stayed behind to guard the Sol system. We'll need to consult with Earth, Chen said carefully. Velmora's translator chirped. Of course. But please move quickly. Time is not our friend in this matter. 3 days later, the United Earth Council voted. The decision was unanimous. Humanity would help defend Aurelia. They were part of the Concordat now, and the Concordat protected its own. Admiral Kozlov stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Indomitable. Around him, displays showed 143 human vessels preparing for departure. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, and battleships. Each one represented years of construction, billions in resources, and hundreds of crew members. All ships report ready, Admiral, said Commander Sarah Blackwood. She was his executive officer, a tall woman with red hair tied back in a tight bun. She had served with Kozlov for 8 years. Set course for Aurelia, Kozlov ordered. Standard formation. And Sarah, keep the sensor arrays active. I want to know everything happening in that system before we arrive. Worried, sir? Blackwood asked quietly. Kozlov watched the stars stretch into lines as the fleet entered faster-than-light travel. Just being careful. This is the largest deployment we've ever made. If something goes wrong, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The journey to Aurelia took 6 days. During that time, Kozlov received regular updates from Volthari Command. Everything seemed normal. The Krethaks were approaching from the outer system. The Concordat forces were moving into position. It would be a standard defensive engagement, but Kozlov couldn't shake a feeling in his gut. He had learned to trust that feeling during his 30 years in the military. On the morning of the 6th day, the fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Aurelia system. The local star burned bright and yellow ahead of them. 6 planets orbited in neat paths. Aurelia Prime, the inhabited world, was the 3rd planet. Sensors are active, Blackwood reported. Scanning for the Concordat fleet and Krethak's positions. Kozlov waited. The bridge crew worked efficiently at their stations. Minutes passed. Sir? Blackwood's voice had changed. It carried an edge of concern. I'm reading the Concordat fleet at the designated coordinates. 203 vessels matching their promise. And the Krithax? Blackwood's hands moved across her console. Her face went pale. Sir, the Krithax force is much larger than intelligence suggested. I'm counting. Over 1,000 ships. Maybe 1,200. The bridge went silent. Every crew member stopped and looked at the tactical display. Red markers representing enemy ships filled the holographic space like angry stars. That's impossible, someone whispered. Kozlov's jaw tightened. Hail the Volthari flagship immediately. We need, sir. Blackwood interrupted. The Volthari fleet is moving. They're not moving into defensive positions. They're moving away from us. On the main display, blue markers representing Concordate ships began to shift. They weren't forming a battle line. They were retreating, and their shields were powering down. What are they doing? Kozlov demanded. Open a channel. All frequencies! The communication officer worked frantically. Channel open, sir. Belmora. Kozlov's voice boomed. What's happening? Why are you withdrawing? For a long moment, only static answered. Then Velmora's voice came through, cold and clear. I'm sorry, Admiral Kozlov. Truly I am. But humanity has become complicated. Your species is too aggressive, too unpredictable. Your technology advances too quickly. Your people bond with everyone, making alliances we cannot control. Kozlov felt ice in his veins. What have you done? We made a deal, Velmora said. The Krithax wanted a worthy opponent removed from the board. They promised to leave Concordate space alone for 50 years. All we had to do was deliver you. Around the Volthari fleet, shimmering portals began to open. Warp gates pre-positioned for a quick escape. You're condemning us to death, Kozlov shouted. You're condemning the galaxy to chaos, Velmora replied. In 100 years, humans would dominate everything. This is for stability. For peace. I hope you understand. The Volthari ships disappeared through the warp gates. In seconds, they were gone. And the Krithax fleet, 1,200 ships strong, turned toward the 143 human vessels floating alone in the dark. All ships. Kozlov's voice carried across every channel. Battle stations! Prepare for combat. We fight our way out together. But even as he gave the orders, he knew the truth. They were betrayed. They were outnumbered almost 10 to 1, and they were very far from home. The Krithax opened fire and the stars filled with light. The first wave of Krithax plasma bolts hit like hammers from hell. The destroyer Vigilant took 3 direct hits to its port side. Its shields flared bright blue, then shattered like glass. The 4th bolt punched through the hull, and the ship broke apart in a silent explosion of metal and flame. Admiral Kozlov gripped the arms of his command chair as the Indomitable shook from near misses. Around him, the bridge crew worked with desperate efficiency. Alarms blared. Damage reports flooded in. The tactical display showed a nightmare in 3 dimensions. All ships evasive pattern Delta 7, Kozlov ordered. Focus fire on their command ships. If we can disrupt their coordination, we have a chance. But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't true. They didn't have a chance. Not really. The Krithax outnumbered them almost 10 to 1. The insectoid aliens flew in perfect swarm formations, overlapping their fire with mechanical precision. Commander Blackwood stood beside him, her face pale but focused. Sir, the cruiser Defiant reports critical damage to their engines. They can't maneuver. Tell them to go full weapons. Make every shot count. The Defiant, stranded in space, became a stationary fortress. Its railguns fired continuously, cutting through Krithax fighters like a knife through silk. But there were too many, always too many. Swarms of enemy ships surrounded the cruiser, their weapons flashing. The Defiant's shields failed. Then its hull began to melt under concentrated fire. Defiant is gone, sir, Blackwood reported quietly. Kozlov closed his eyes for just a moment. 300 people had served on that ship. 300 people who trusted him to bring them home. Mark them. It was all he could do. Mark the dead and keep fighting. The human fleet fought like cornered wolves. They used every trick, every tactic they had learned in 15 years of peace. The carrier Relentless launched its fighters, which dove into Krithax formations with suicidal bravery. The battleship Thunderhead rammed a Krithax cruiser, destroying both ships but clearing a path for others to escape. The destroyer squadron led by Captain Maria Santos held the rear, buying time with their lives. But the Krithax kept coming. For every enemy ship destroyed, 2 more appeared. Their weapons never seemed to run out of ammunition. Their formations never broke into panic or confusion. "They're hurting us," Blackwood said suddenly. She pointed to the tactical display. "Look at the pattern. They're pushing us toward the gravity well of Aurelia Prime." Kozlov saw it immediately. The Krethaks weren't trying to destroy the human fleet quickly. They were trying to trap them. If the human ships got too close to the planet, they wouldn't be able to jump to faster-than-light travel. They would be stuck. "All ships, new heading," Kozlov commanded. "Vector 97, maximum thrust. We're breaking out of this cage." The human fleet turned as one, burning their engines at full power. They charged directly at the thickest part of the Krethaks formation. It was a desperate move, but staying in the trap meant certain death. The Indomitable led the charge. Its forward railguns fired in a continuous stream, punching holes through Krethak shields and hulls. The battleship Macedonia followed close behind, its missile pods launching hundreds of warheads. Explosions lit up the dark like fireworks. "We're taking heavy fire," the tactical officer shouted. "Shields at 40%. "Keep moving," Kozlov ordered. "Don't stop for anything." A Krethak's destroyer exploded directly in their path. The Indomitable flew through the debris field, pieces of alien ship bouncing off its shields. Warning lights flashed across every console. "Shields at 20%. Sir, the battle group Alpha is cut off." "They can't follow us." Kozlov looked at the display. 15 ships, including the mighty battleship Sovereign, were surrounded. They fought bravely, their weapons never silent. But they were dying. "Sovereign, this is Indomitable. Captain Rodriguez, break through. We'll cover you." Captain Rodriguez's voice came back, calm despite the chaos. "Negative, Admiral. Our engines are damaged. We'd slow you down. Get the others out." "That's an order from a dying man to a living one. Make sure Earth remembers what happened here." "Captain, it's been an honor, sir." "Rodriguez out." The Sovereign's communication channel went dead. On the tactical display, the 15 ships fought to their last breath. One by one, their markers went dark. Kozlov's hands trembled with rage. But he couldn't stop, couldn't turn back. Every second meant more lives saved or lost. The human fleet broke through the Krethak's line after 20 minutes of the most intense combat Kozlov had ever experienced. But the cost was terrible. 27 more ships were gone. The survivors were all damaged, many critically. "Status report," Kozlov demanded. Blackwood's voice was hollow. "We have 54 ships remaining. 42 are combat capable. 12 are heavily damaged and can barely move. Total crew losses." She paused. "We've lost over 30,000 people, sir. 30,000. The number hit Kozlov like a physical blow. 30,000 humans who had trusted their leaders, who had believed in the Concordat, who had thought they were defending allies. "The Krethaks are pursuing," the tactical officer reported. "They're not giving up." "Set course for the jump point," Kozlov ordered. "Best possible speed. Damaged ships stay with the fleet. We don't leave anyone behind." The retreat took 4 hours. 4 hours of running while Krethak ships snapped at their heels. The carrier, relentless, its engines failing, stayed behind to slow the pursuit. Its fighters launched one final time, throwing themselves at the enemy like shooting stars. The Relentless bought the fleet 12 precious minutes before it exploded. By the time the human fleet reached the jump point, only 54 ships remained. Many were held together by emergency fields and prayers. "All ships prepare for jump," Kozlov said. His voice was tired, so tired. "Coordinates for Sol system." "We're going home, sir," Blackwood said softly. "Before we jump, do you want to send a message to the Concordat?" Kozlov thought about it. He thought about Velmora's cold voice, about the Volthari's betrayal, about 30,000 dead. "Record this," he said. "Transmit on all Concordat frequencies." The communication light blinked green. Kozlov spoke clearly. "This is Admiral Kozlov of the human 3rd Expeditionary Fleet. We came to Aurelia in good faith. We came as allies. The Volthari betrayed us. They sold us to the Krethaks like animals at market. 89 human ships are destroyed. 30,000 people are dead. We will remember this. We will remember every name, every ship, every life lost today. And we will never forget who killed them." He paused, his eyes hard as diamonds. "Consider this humanity's first and only warning. We came to the stars hoping for friendship. You taught us to bring something else instead. We're going home now, but we'll be back. And when we return, you'll wish you had killed all of us here today, because the survivors remember, and we will teach Earth to remember too." Kozlov cut the transmission. "Jump," he ordered. The 54 battered human ships tore holes in reality and disappeared, racing toward home through the strange space between spaces. Behind them, the Aurelia system fell silent. Debris fields marked where proud ships had died. And somewhere, the Volthari received Kozlov's message and told themselves that humanity was too weak, too damaged to be a threat. They were wrong. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Kozlov sat in his chair and finally allowed himself to feel the weight of what happened. He had left with 143 ships. He was returning with 54. "We'll tell Earth everything," Blackwood said quietly. "They need to know what the galaxy really is." Kozlov nodded slowly. "Yes, and then Earth will decide. We tried peace. We tried friendship. We trusted them." He looked at the stars rushing past on the view screen. "Now let's see what happens when humanity stops holding back." The Sol system's orbital defenses detected the returning fleet 3 days before arrival. Long-range sensors showed 54 ships where 143 had left. The news reached Earth at the speed of light, and within hours the entire planet knew something terrible had happened. Admiral Kozlov stood at attention in the United Earth Council chamber. His uniform was clean now, but his eyes still carried the weight of Aurelia. Around the circular room, representatives from every nation and colony watched him in silence. Above them, holographic displays showed the wreckage of destroyed ships recorded by the Indomitable's sensors. 30,000 dead, Kozlov said, his voice steady. 89 ships destroyed. The Volthari deliberately led us into a trap. They sold humanity to the Krithaks in exchange for peace. They called us too dangerous, too unpredictable. They said we were a threat to galactic stability. Council President Maria Santos, an elderly woman from Brazil, leaned forward. "And the rest of the Concordat?" "Silent," Kozlov replied. "We've received no messages of support." "No apologies. 3 hours ago, the Concordat formally expelled humanity from the Alliance. They claim we provoked the Krithaks. They're calling Aurelia our fault." The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Representatives shouted at each other, at the displays, at the universe itself. Santos banged her gavel until silence returned. "What are our options?" she asked. General Thomas Mbeki, head of Earth's Unified Military Command, stood. He was a tall man from South Africa, his hair white with age but his body still strong. "We rebuild our fleet. It will take years, but we can replace what we lost." "And then what?" asked Representative Kim from Korea. "Fight the entire Concordat. They have thousands of ships. We'll be wiped out." "Maybe," Mbeki said. "Maybe not." The room went quiet. Mbeki gestured, and new files appeared on every representative's personal display. "These are classified projects. Black programs that we've been developing for 20 years. Kozlov leaned forward, reading the files. His eyes widened. "Is this real?" "Very real," Mbeki confirmed. "When we first met the Concordat, our leaders weren't naive. We hoped for friendship, but we prepared for war. We shared some technology with our so-called allies, but not everything, not even close. The first file showed ship designs, sleek, deadly vessels that looked nothing like the ships in the current human fleet. The Ghost Fleet," Mbeki explained. 300 ships controlled entirely by artificial intelligence. No crews needed. They can make decisions faster than any biological mind. The Concordat banned military AI, remember? Called it too dangerous, so we never told them we were building it anyway. Representative Zhang from China scrolled through the data. "These ships are remarkable. Why didn't we use them at Aurelia?" "Because we were still hoping the Concordat was our friend," Kozlov said bitterly. "We fought with one hand tied behind our backs." Mbeki pulled up another file. "Antimatter torpedoes. The Concordat uses plasma and kinetic weapons because antimatter is hard to contain. We solved that problem 5 years ago. One antimatter torpedo can crack a battleship in half." More files appeared. Quantum entanglement weapons that could target ships through their own shields. Stealth technology that made ships invisible to every sensor the Concordat possessed. Jump drives that could move ships across hundreds of light years in minutes instead of days. "We've been developing all of this in secret," Mbeki said. "In shipyards on the dark side of the moon. In facilities deep in the asteroid belt. The Concordat thinks they know what humanity can do. They're wrong." Ambassador Chen, who had survived Aurelia aboard the Indomitable, spoke up. "This is all impressive. But we're still talking about fighting a war against the entire galaxy. Even with these weapons, can we win?" "No," Mbeki admitted. "We can't conquer the Concordat. But we don't need to. We just need to teach them a lesson they'll never forget. Santos looked at the general. What are you suggesting? Total strategic negation, Mbeki said. We don't fight the Concordate's armies. We eliminate their ability to make war. We target their fleet, their shipyards, their supply lines. We hit them so hard, so fast that they won't be able to respond for decades. And then we withdraw behind our own borders and dare them to try again. The council chamber fell silent. Representatives looked at each other, uncertain. This wasn't the humanity they knew. This was something darker, something that scared even themselves. The Voltari killed 30,000 of us, Kozlov said quietly. They betrayed our trust. If we do nothing, they'll think humanity is weak. They'll think they can do it again, or other species will try. We need to show the galaxy what happens when you betray us. Santos closed her eyes. She had been president of the United Earth Council for 10 years. She had guided humanity through first contact, through integration with the Concordate, through years of peace, now that peace was ashes. The Geneva Protocols for Interstellar Warfare, she said. They limit how we fight. They protect civilians. They set rules for warfare. The Concordate doesn't follow those rules, Mbeki said. They sent us into a death trap. They murdered 30,000 people who couldn't fight back. If we follow rules they ignore, we'll lose. Santos opened her eyes. They were wet with tears, but her voice was firm. Call a vote. Full council. Let Earth decide what kind of species we want to be. The vote took 3 hours. Representatives argued, debated, sometimes shouted. In the end, the result was unanimous. The Geneva Protocols for Interstellar Warfare were suspended. All military production was authorized. The Ghost Fleet was approved for deployment, and Admiral Sarah Blackwood was promoted to Fleet Admiral and given command of the First Retribution Fleet. Blackwood stood before the council, accepting her new rank. Her red hair was pulled back tight. Her green eyes were cold as space. Your orders are simple, Admiral, Santos said. Find the Volthari Grand Fleet. They started this war. Make sure they can never start another one. Yes, ma'am, Blackwood replied. What about civilian casualties? Santos's face was grim. This is a military operation only. You are authorized to destroy military targets. Nothing else. We're not the Volthari. We don't murder the innocent. Understood. As Blackwood left the council chamber, Kozlov caught up with her. Sarah, you don't have to do this. I can lead the fleet, she shook her head. No, sir. You got our people out of Aurelia. You saved 54 ships when anyone else would have lost them all. You're a hero. And what are you? Blackwood's smile was sharp as a knife. I'm what happens next. Over the following months, Earth transformed. Factories that once built civilian ships now produced warships. The Ghost Fleet woke up in secret shipyards. AI minds learning tactics and strategy. Scientists worked day and night developing new weapons. The asteroid belt became an armed fortress, and intelligence teams worked to track the Volthari Grand Fleet. They used every trick, every technique humanity had learned. They sent microdrones through Concordate space, tiny machines no larger than insects. They intercepted communications. They bribed informants. They hacked computer systems. 4 months after Aurelia, they found it. The entire Volthari Grand Fleet, over 2,000 ships, had gathered at the fortress world of Thalmor. It was their ultimate stronghold, protected by orbital defense platforms and shield generators that could protect the entire planet. They're consolidating, Admiral Blackwood said, studying the intelligence reports. They're afraid we might strike back, so they're gathering all their strength in one place. Her second-in-command, Captain James Wu, frowned at the tactical display. That's a lot of ships, Admiral. Even with our new weapons, attacking Thalmor would be suicide. Blackwood's smile was cold. They think so too. That's why they did it. They believe gathering all their forces will protect them. They think we'll see those numbers and back down, won't we? No, Blackwood said simply. They gave us a gift. They put all their military eggs in one basket. We just need to break that basket. She pulled up deployment plans for the First Retribution Fleet, 450 ships including 300 Ghost Fleet vessels, antimatter torpedoes, quantum weapons, stealth technology, everything humanity had held back for 20 years. Send the word, Blackwood ordered. All ships are to prepare for deployment. We leave in 48 hours. Where are we going, Admiral? Wu asked. Blackwood looked at the star map showing Thalmor's location deep in Volthari space. We're going to teach the galaxy what humanity does to traitors. We're going to show them why they should have killed us all when they had the chance. She paused, her eyes reflecting the cold light of distant stars. We're going to make them remember us. The Volthari communication relay station orbited a small moon in the Kestrin system. It was a quiet posting far from the central worlds. Lieutenant Velshan monitored the sensor screens with bored efficiency. Nothing ever happened here. The relay just passed messages between fleet groups, completely automated. Her job was to watch for technical failures. The screen flickered. Just once. Velshan frowned and checked the diagnostic systems. Everything showed green. Normal operation. She shrugged and went back to her personal datapad, reading a novel about ancient Volthari warriors. Behind the relay station, invisible to every sensor, a human stealth ship hung in space like a ghost. Inside, a young officer named Lieutenant Marcus Chen watched his own screens. The AI counted down. 3, 2, 1. The relay station exploded. No warning. No chance to send a distress signal. Just a brief flash of light and then silence. The human stealth ship engaged its experimental jump drive and vanished, leaving no trace it was ever there. All across Volthari space, the same scene repeated. Communication relays destroyed. Supply depots blown apart. Fuel stations reduced to debris. Small targets strategically chosen. And every single attack was perfectly executed with no survivors to report what happened. High Chancellor Velmora stood in the command center on Voltharan Prime, the Volthari homeworld. Holographic displays showed red markers appearing across the Empire. 15 attacks in 3 days. No pattern she could identify. No way to predict where the humans would strike next. How are they doing this? She demanded. We have sensors. We have patrols. How are they moving through our space without being detected? Her military advisor, General Krathzone, studied the tactical map. Their stealth technology is more advanced than we thought. Much more advanced. Our sensors can't track them. Then upgrade the sensors. We're trying, Chancellor. But human technology evolves quickly. What we called primitive 15 years ago is now more sophisticated than our own in some areas. Velmora felt cold fear in her stomach. At Aurelia, the humans had fought bravely but predictably. They had used standard tactics, standard weapons. The Volthari intelligence had assessed human military capability and found it adequate but not exceptional. They had been wrong. Terribly wrong. The humans had been hiding their true strength. We need to stop these attacks, Velmora said. They're destroying our infrastructure. If this continues, our supply lines will collapse. I recommend we recall the Grand Fleet from the border, Krathzone suggested. Concentrate all our forces at Thalmor. The fortress world can protect our fleet, and with 2,000 ships in one location, we can respond to any human attack. Velmora considered it. Thalmor was the Empire's greatest stronghold. Its orbital platforms could destroy an entire fleet. Its shield generators could protect the planet from any bombardment. And if the Grand Fleet assembled there, its combined firepower would be unstoppable. Do it, she ordered. Recall all military vessels to Thalmor. If the humans want to fight, let them come to us on ground we choose. The order went out across the Empire. Over the next month, Volthari warships converged on Thalmor from 100 systems. Battleships and destroyers, carriers and cruisers, support vessels and supply ships. They gathered in orbit around the fortress world like a swarm of metal stars. What the Volthari didn't know was that every single ship had been tagged. Tiny human microdrones, no larger than grains of sand, had attached themselves to hulls during port visits. Each drone was a tracker, reporting its location through quantum entanglement. The signal was undetectable and instantaneous across any distance. In a secret facility on Mars, human intelligence officers watched as a giant tactical display filled with blue dots. Each dot represented a Volthari military vessel, and every single one was moving toward Thalmor. They're doing exactly what we predicted, said Colonel Sarah Winters, head of military intelligence. She sent the data through encrypted channels to Admiral Blackwood's fleet, which was already in position near the Sol system. Aboard the flagship Retribution, Admiral Blackwood reviewed the intelligence with satisfaction. Her command center was quiet and efficient. Officers worked at their stations with focused intensity. The ship itself was brand new, built in secret over the past 4 months. It represented the pinnacle of human military technology. All ships report ready, Admiral, Captain Wu reported. The Ghost Fleet is online and awaiting orders. Blackwood looked at the tactical display showing Thalmor and its gathering fleet. 2,247 Volthari ships, the largest concentration of military force in the Empire's history. They probably thought it made them safe, They gave us exactly what we wanted, Blackwood said quietly. One target, one battle, one chance to end this war before it really begins. Are we sure about the numbers? Wu asked. 2,000 ships is still... I'm not worried about their numbers, Blackwood interrupted. I'm worried about what comes after. If we do this, there's no going back. Humanity will be the species that destroyed an entire fleet. The galaxy will fear us. Better feared than dead, Wu said. Blackwood nodded slowly. Signal all ships. We depart in 6 hours. Course for Thalmor. The first Retribution fleet began its final preparations. Human crews ran through combat drills. The Ghost Fleet's AIs calculated millions of tactical scenarios. Weapons were armed and tested. Jump drives were calibrated. In the ship's common areas, crew members wrote letters home. Just in case. They checked photos of loved ones. They made promises to each other about what they'd do after the battle. It was a ritual as old as warfare itself. Lieutenant Marcus Chen, the young officer who had destroyed the first relay station, sat in the pilot seat of his stealth ship. His vessel would be part of the initial strike force. He thought about his grandfather who had died at Aurelia aboard the destroyer Vigilant. The old man had taught Marcus to fly when he was just a boy. This is for you, Grandpa, Marcus whispered. For you and all the others. Admiral Blackwood made her way through the Retribution, visiting different sections of the ship. She stopped to talk with crew members, learning their names, shaking their hands. She wanted them to know their admiral cared about each one of them. In engineering, she found a young technician named Amy Rodriguez. The name made Blackwood pause. Are you related to Captain Rodriguez? From the Sovereign? The girl nodded, tears in her eyes. He was my father, ma'am. He was a good man, Blackwood said softly. He saved a lot of lives at Aurelia. I know, Amy said. That's why I'm here. I volunteered for this mission. I want to be part of what happens next. Blackwood put a hand on the girl's shoulder. Your father would be proud of you. Make sure you survive this, understand? We need people like you to build the future. Yes, ma'am. 6 hours later, the first Retribution fleet assembled in formation. 450 ships organized in precise tactical groups. Human crewed vessels took the center and flanks. Ghost Fleet ships formed a surrounding shell, their AI minds coordinating with perfect efficiency. Blackwood sat in her command chair, looking at the fleet display. Around her, the bridge crew waited in silence. This was the moment, the decision point. Once they jumped to Thalmor, there would be no turning back. She thought about Admiral Kozlov's words from Aurelia. Consider this humanity's first and only warning. The Volthari had ignored that warning. They had expelled humanity from the Concordat. They had called the massacre at Aurelia justified. Now they would learn what happened when you corner a species that remembers everything. All ships, Blackwood said, her voice clear and strong. This is Admiral Blackwood. In a few minutes we're going to jump to Thalmor. The Volthari think they're safe behind their fortress. They think we're too weak to challenge them. They think betraying us at Aurelia had no consequences. Today we prove them wrong. Today we show the galaxy what humanity does to traitors. Today we make them remember. All ships jump in 3, 2, 1, mark. 450 human ships tore holes in reality and disappeared. They traveled through the strange space between spaces, moving faster than light itself. The journey to Thalmor would take 6 hours. 6 hours until the Volthari learned their mistake. 6 hours until the galaxy changed forever. The Volthari sensor officer aboard the orbital command station blinked at his display in confusion. Commander, I'm detecting spatial distortions. Multiple points. There, 450 human ships materialized in the Thalmor system like nightmares becoming real. They appeared in perfect formation, already moving at combat speed. The sensor officer's screen filled with red warning markers. Sound the alarm. The commander shouted. All ships to battle stations. But the human fleet had planned this moment down to the second. They emerged from faster-than-light travel exactly where they wanted to be, close enough to strike but far enough to avoid the planet's heaviest defenses. Admiral Blackwood stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the tactical display. 2,247 Volthari ships floated in orbit around Thalmor. It was the largest fleet humanity had ever faced, and she was about to destroy it. Open all communication channels, she ordered. All frequencies. I want every ship in the system to hear this. The communication officer nodded. Channels open, Admiral. Blackwood's voice carried across the void, reaching every Volthari vessel. "This is Admiral Sarah Blackwood of the United Earth Navy. 4 months ago you betrayed us at Aurelia. You led us into a trap and murdered 30,000 of our people. You called us too dangerous, too unpredictable. You said betraying us was for galactic stability. Today, we're going to show you what stability looks like when humanity writes the definition." On the Volthari flagship Eternal Glory, High Chancellor Velmora listened to Blackwood's words. Her skin had gone pale blue with fear. Around her, military officers scrambled to organize a response. "How many ships do they have?" she demanded. 450, Chancellor," General Krathzon reported. "We outnumber them 5-1. Velmora felt relief flood through her. "Then we can—" "Chancellor," Blackwood's voice interrupted through the speakers. "You're looking at our numbers and feeling confident. That's a mistake. You see, at Aurelia we fought with the fleet you knew about. Today you're facing the fleet we built in secret. Today you're facing humanity when we're not holding back. I want you to remember this moment. Remember that you had a chance to be our friends and you chose to be our enemies. This is what that choice costs." Blackwood cut the transmission. "All ships execute attack pattern Ragnarok. Ghost Fleet, you are weapons free." The Ghost Fleet struck first. 300 AI-controlled ships moved with inhuman precision. They didn't need to coordinate through voice communication. They didn't need to worry about crew safety or survival. They were simply weapons, cold and perfect. Millions of autonomous hunter-killer drones launched from the Ghost Fleet's carriers. Each drone was the size of a basketball, packed with explosives and guidance systems. They swarmed toward the Volthari fleet like a cloud of metal locusts. The Volthari opened fire, trying to shoot down the drones. Plasma bolts and laser beams filled space. Thousands of drones exploded, but there were too many. They reached the Volthari ships and attached themselves to hulls, seeking weak points. Then they detonated. The destroyer Kelshara died first, its hull punctured in 50 places simultaneously. Atmosphere vented into space. The ship spun out of control, colliding with a nearby cruiser. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire. The human fleet's antimatter torpedoes launched next. These weren't like the conventional weapons the Volthari knew. Human scientists had found a way to phase the torpedoes through normal shields using quantum tunneling. The weapons simply appeared inside the Volthari shields and detonated. The battleship Thunderous Pride took an antimatter torpedo amidships. The explosion was so bright that crew members on nearby ships had to shield their eyes. When the light faded, the Thunderous Pride was gone. Not damaged, not destroyed, simply gone, converted to expanding plasma. "Impossible," General Krathzon shouted. "Our shields should stop those weapons." "They're using quantum phasing," a panicked science officer replied. "The torpedoes tunnel through the shield matrix. There's no defense." The Volthari fleet tried to respond. Over 2,000 ships turned their weapons on the human fleet and opened fire. The volume of incoming fire was staggering, but the human ships moved with practiced efficiency, their formation shifting like a school of fish avoiding a predator. The Ghost Fleet's AI calculated the trajectory of every enemy shot. Ships dodged microseconds before weapons fired. Human stealth technology scattered sensor locks. And when Volthari ships did score hits, human shields absorbed the damage far better than expected. "They're adapting to our weapons in real time," a Volthari tactical officer reported. "Their computers are learning our firing patterns." Lieutenant Marcus Chen piloted his stealth ship through the chaos. He had been assigned a specific target, the Volthari command carrier where High Chancellor Velmora coordinated the defense. His ship was invisible to their sensors, a ghost in the black. He maneuvered through the debris field that was rapidly forming. Destroyed Volthari ships tumbled through space, trailing fire and bodies. Marcus tried not to think about the death around him. He had a job to do. The command carrier was massive, 5 times larger than any human ship, but size meant nothing if you couldn't see your enemy. Marcus positioned his ship behind the carrier's main engines and launched a full spread of antimatter torpedoes. The torpedoes phased through the carrier's shields and struck the engine core. The explosion tore the massive ship in half. Marcus didn't wait to see the result. He engaged his jump drive and vanished, reappearing near the main human fleet. Aboard the Eternal Glory, Velmora felt the flagship shake as nearby ships exploded. The tactical display was a nightmare of red markers going dark. Her fleet was dying. Ships that had sailed the stars for centuries were being destroyed in minutes. "Order all ships to focus fire on their flagship," she commanded. If we kill their admiral, maybe they'll retreat. 200 Volthari ships turned their weapons on the Retribution. The volume of fire was incredible, but the human flagship was ready. Its shields flared bright blue, absorbing hit after hit, and around it, Ghost Fleet ships formed a protective wall, sacrificing themselves to protect Blackwood's command. Shields holding at 70%, Captain Wu reported. But we can't take this kind of punishment forever. We don't need forever, Blackwood replied calmly. Execute Phase 2. The human fleet's cruisers launched a new weapon. These were quantum disruptor missiles, designed to create cascading shield failures. When they hit Volthari ships, the shields didn't just drop, they exploded, damaging nearby vessels in a chain reaction. The center of the Volthari formation became a killing zone. Ships lost shields and died to follow-up strikes. The perfect orbital formation collapsed into chaos as captains tried to maneuver away from the cascading failures. They're breaking formation, Wu observed. Good, Blackwood said. Once they panic, they stop thinking tactically. Press the attack. The battle raged for 47 minutes. 47 minutes of the most intense combat humanity had ever waged. The Ghost Fleet lost 93 ships, their AI sacrificing themselves without hesitation when needed. Human-crewed vessels lost 12 ships, mostly to overwhelming focused fire. But the Volthari fleet died by the hundreds. Their 2,000 ships simply couldn't adapt to human tactics and technology. Every strategy they tried was countered before it could succeed. Every formation they formed was broken with precision strikes. Aboard the Eternal Glory, Velmora watched her fleet disintegrate. Over 1,500 ships were gone. More died every second. She had led her people into disaster. Send a message to the human flagship, she said quietly. Tell them we surrender, please. The communication officer sent the plea across all frequencies. Human fleet, this is the Volthari flagship. We surrender. Please, we surrender. For a moment, the human attack paused. The Ghost Fleet held position, weapons still armed but not firing. Then Admiral Blackwood's voice came through the speakers, cold and clear. You surrender now? After 30,000 of my people died at Aurelia? After you betrayed our trust and sold us to the Krythax? After you expelled us from the Concordat and called our murder justified? Blackwood paused. You taught us at Aurelia that mercy is a strategic weakness. You taught us that trusting our allies gets them killed. You taught us that the galaxy respects only strength. We learned your lessons well, Chancellor. Very well. Please, Velmora begged. We made a mistake. We were wrong about humanity. Please show us the mercy we denied you. No, Blackwood said simply. Mercy is what we offered at Aurelia. This is justice. All ships continue the attack. The human fleet struck again with renewed fury. The remaining Volthari ships, already damaged and demoralized, broke completely. Some tried to flee. Others fought to the last. None survived. The Eternal Glory took 6 antimatter torpedoes simultaneously. The flagship of the Volthari Empire exploded into fragments, taking High Chancellor Velmora and her entire command staff with it. When the battle ended, the Thalmor system was silent. Debris fields marked where thousands of ships had died. 2,247 Volthari vessels were destroyed. Not one survived. The human fleet remained in formation, damaged but victorious. 12 ships lost, a ratio of almost 200 enemy ships destroyed for every human vessel lost.